Hello, everybody. This is Eliakim Cohen back with a really interesting episode of Shiur by the Sea. Today, we're going to talk about Shevet Dan, the tribe of Dan, specifically his only son, Chushim. Chushim is a very unique character in the Torah. So, how I learned Torah is basically, I've been reading the same book over and over again. It's called Yaakov. Actually, Baruch Hashem, just finished it, I think, for the 21st time. It's all the Agadah, meaning all like the beautiful stories and the wisdom of the Talmud into one book. So while reading that, I find topics that I find very fascinating, and I just learn them, inside out, and then I basically do a lecture about them. So I've had a passion for Shevet Dan, the tribe of Dan, for years. It's a strange one. I'm from Shevet Levi, so obviously that's my favorite tribe. Everyone knows Shevet Yehuda. What's so unique about Shevet Dan? Well, what you're going to see today is Shevet Dan is very special. And I can attest to this because Shevet Dan is basically you can't sink too low and not have a way back. Shevet Dan is the proof that there is always a way back. So yesterday I finished a 20-hour risk reduction course that I had to take to get my license in Florida. Most of you know I'm here temporarily, but I need to be able to drive my son to school. So I decided to get my license again. My license was suspended 17 years ago after my high-speed car chase on cocaine. So I thought maybe I would just have to pay a fine. I'm at the permit office. I passed the test. I'm thinking I'm getting, my permit, and then my driving test is scheduled, for next month. And she said, "Oh no, your driver's license is suspended. You have to call Georgia." Okay, I called Georgia. And Georgia said, "Yeah, you need to just pay a fine." I'm like, "Okay, great. What's the fine?" And she said, "And you also have to take a 20-hour risk reduction course." I said, "Did you just say 20 hours?" She said, "Yes." So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week, I did that. The people that I was taking this course with, I'm with like 40 other people. And, a lot of them are like just out of rehab or just had a DUI. I mean, I'm sitting there, with my kippah on with a bunch of people from the South. And it sort of got me thinking, it's time to do a lecture on Shevet Dan. So during this course, I actually put this lecture together because there's some really like nice people here, very interesting, very, I feel like in a different life, we would hit it off. I saw potential in a lot of these people. And, you might be thinking, they just got out of the jail for DUI and all these different things, but they're basically the embodiment of Shevet Dan. Shevet Dan was a very unique among all the tribes. It's actually, they're called the lowest of all the tribes, and we're going to learn all about this. I think it's going to be very fascinating. A lot of my lectures are different quotes or a specific topic that someone picks. This is maybe my favorite of all topics. This is one of my hobbies, is Shevet Dan, specifically his son, Chushim. Okay, so I just uploaded a Purim lecture yesterday that my dear friend Malka Rus sponsored. And, she had like specific things she wanted me to talk about. And then she said, the rest, just do your usual and blow, I call it blow my toupee off, right? A toupee blowing lecture. So she messaged me this morning just how special the lecture was. And that makes me feel so good because I put a lot of time and effort into these lectures, especially when someone sponsors them with a specific topic. I mean, some people have a topic that they love, just like I love Shevet Dan. So it makes me feel good that so many people are now sponsoring lectures, which is amazing. It gives me so much time to be able to, put things together, read different sources, and just put together really powerful lectures. And that's what we're doing. Because the crux of all my lectures is this. Just like it is very stupid to think that this cup blew up randomly at a plastic factory and serves no purpose, so too is it equally as dumb to think that Hashem created you exactly with your strong suits and weaknesses and strengths, but you serve no purpose. And even sadder is some people think that Hashem created you and then he just drifted off into the sunset and has no care or influence or love of you anymore, which is absurd. So this lecture is actually sponsored by my dear friend Lisa. I believe this is either the 28th or 29th lecture that I've done for her in the last 4 months. Lisa's someone that gets it. She gets it. She messaged me right at the beginning, right when I got here in March, and she said, after listening to one of my lectures, she said, should I be driving to synagogue on Friday night? I said, absolutely not. There is zero permission to do that. That would be like saying to someone, I'll give you $1 million, give me $1 back. Yeah, it's nice to be at shul. It's not nice to break Hashem's mitzvahs. You unequivocally cannot drive on Shabbos unless it is a life risk. End of story. Any rabbi telling you otherwise is not even remotely qualified to be a rabbi. We've done so many Shabbos lectures. I did a 2-part Shabbos lecture. I mean, people, use your brain, okay? And people always say, you're telling me that Hashem would rather me sit at home than drive to shul and be with my kids in a Jewish setting. Yes. Unequivocally, yes. There is zero dispensation or accommodation for this in the Torah. So Lisa is someone that gets it. She started keeping Shabbos appropriately. And she understands that you have to give tzedakah. So why not give it to the place that you get the best bang for your buck? Someone that is doing not just teaching Torah, but teaching Torah to reach the people like I used to be. Very proud Jews, lovers of Israel, but didn't know how to, put that into action. So she always sponsors lectures for either friends or relatives. This one is for her beloved Aunt Min, or Minkele in Yiddish. She was the oldest daughter and oldest sister of her dad. She was the oldest daughter and the older sister of her father. She ran the family. She was the real matriarch. She was brilliant in business. She made sure that he had his meals, his lunch packed, and dinner ready when he came home. I always wanted a big sister for that reason. I have a big brother, but her house was always spotless. When Lisa came back from Israel and enrolled into university, she stayed at her house for a few months, and she always made sure when she had her own apartment to invite her for Rosh Hashanah dinner and the breaking of Yom Kippur and Pesach. She had impeccable taste and always dressed beautifully and had many, many pairs of shoes. I love when Lisa writes me. It's so sweet. Okay. Shevet Dan. I mean, I hope when this lecture's over, you're like, wow, I just learned so much about one little, like minuscule topic in the Torah. I want to learn more. I want to learn more Torah because I'm sure you've glossed over this, even the people out here that are religious. I guarantee you there's things in this lecture you've never heard of before. It's going to be really, really fun. Okay. Avram heard that his kinsman had been taken captive, meaning Lot. And he armed his men, those born in his house, 318, and he pursued them until done. Right? This is Genesis, Bereshit 14:14. And you'll say, okay, there wasn't a Dan yet. He wasn't even born. Dan was born to Yaakov. This is Abraham. This is way before Dan. What do you mean he pursued them until Dan? Like it's a area. There's no such thing named Dan at that point. Well, the Torah isn't time specific. A lot of things are forwards and backwards and in the future and in the past. What was so unique that Abraham pursued them until Dan and then basically stopped? Okay? What happened in Dan? Dan, right? D-A-N, Dan. What happened in Dan that Abraham is just charging after Lot's captors and then he stops? What does Rashi say? And Dan, there he became weak. Abraham became weak. Why? Because he foresaw that his children were destined to erect a golden calf there. This is a reference to what it says in Malachim, Kings. And he, meaning Yerovam, placed one of the golden calves in Beit El, and the other he placed in Dan. Okay. The Jewish people every one of our punishments in history stems a little drop from the golden calf that we very stupidly built in the desert after getting the Torah within 40 days. We were immortal at that point. It says that the malachim came, the angels came and put 2 crowns in our head, 2 spiritual crowns, and death was no longer. And then we erected the golden calf. They misjudged when Moshe was going to be coming down from the mountain after 40 days. And then, boom, everything just sort of went downhill from there. So when Yerovam wanted to basically gain power and solidify power, what did he do? He set up 2 golden calves, one in Bethel and one in Dan. Okay? Why did he put it in the tribe's territory of maybe Shimon or Yisachar or Zvulun? Why specifically Dan? Okay? Dan, as they say. Why Dan? Dan's territory was in the northernmost part of Israel. Rabbi Adler cites the Midrash that proposes that Hashem left a section of the world incomplete, giving man free choice to worship idols, to not follow in his ways. Free choice, Bechira. The section that was left incomplete was the north. And so Dan was vulnerable to Avodah Zarah. This vulnerability was already manifest in the desert, where Dan was the final northernmost tribe and the cavalcade of tribes as they journeyed through the desert. Dan was always last. Again in the desert, it was the son of Shlomis Bas Divri, of Shevet Dan, who cursed Hashem. He was the one that cursed Hashem and was then killed. It was also the members of Dan who succumbed to the idolatry of Amalek. It says when Amalek came and they slew the people that were outside the camp, outside the clouds of glory, that was members of Shevet Dan. Shevet Dan has an ability to go lower than any other tribe. Okay, you have to understand this. Shevet Dan is basically a Jew very, very far from the derech. A Jew very, very far from the path. Hence, Yerovam erecting the golden calf in the area of Dan. Dan is a very unique and problematic, but also very special and beautiful tribe. It has everything in one. Dan, of all the Shvatim, of all the tribes, best represents and encapsulates the Jewish people. Okay? What about the name itself? Where did Dan come from? Right? Rachel Amenu had been childless. In an attempt to become a mother in Israel, she gave her maidservant Bilhah to Yaakov as a wife. There's a lecture on my wall right now. I think I'm wearing a black tie. It is mind-blowing. It talks about why there's 2.5 tribes outside the land and 9.5 inside the land. It is really, really mind-blowing. And part of the thing we talk about is that Rachel gave the maidservant, Bilhah, to Yaakov as a wife, and then Zilpah was given by Leah to Yaakov as a wife. Rachel was childless, Leah was not. Rachel had a very good reason for doing this. Why? Well, the grandmother, Sarah, did this to Yaakov. To Abraham. She gave Abraham Hagar. So Rachel is childless and she's devastated. She gives Bilhah to Yaakov. And who comes from this? Dan. Upon his birth, Rachel Amenu proclaims, Danani, God has judged me. He has heard my voice and given me a son. So she named him Dan. Din, judged, judgment. As the Midrash explains, Rachel Amenu said, Hashem judged me and found me wanting, but then he judged me again and listened to my prayers and gave me this son. Okay? All right. Yaakov Avinu then blesses all the children at the end of his life, right? He says something very strange about the tribe of Dan. What does Yaakov say? Dan will avenge his people like one of the tribes. Dan will be a serpent on the road, a viper on the path, which bites the horse's heels so its rider falls backwards. For your salvation, I hope, It's a very bizarre bracha. Dan will avenge his people like one of the tribes. What does that mean? Which tribe? Yehuda. Dan will be a necessary component of everything important in Judaism. Yaakov is explaining. Dan will avenge his people. He's specifically talking about Shimshon. They thought Shimshon might have been the Mashiach. Shimshon had all the characteristics of being the Mashiach, but then he failed. Samson, right? Samson was the most powerful. He almost single-handedly destroyed all of our enemies. Yaakov thought, he saw this man, Shimshon, and thought he could have been Mashiach. Dan will avenge his people like one of the tribes. The tribe he's referring to is Shevet Yehuda, the tribe of Yehuda, the Melech, the king. Dan will be a serpent on the road, a viper on the path. It's exactly how Shimshon used to fight his enemies. Bites the horse's heel so that its rider falls backwards. For your salvation I hope, O Lord. Yaakov starts the prophecy singing Shimshon, and then he sees Shimshon's eventual outcome. He sees Shimshon's failure. What does it say about Shimshon from the tribe of Dan? It says that he went after the girl because it was pleasing to his eyes. So what was the punishment? The Philistines, they knocked out his eyes. And then what does Dan do? He sort of just suicide bombs this huge arena. He davens to Hashem, please give me strength one more time. And he knocks down the pole that's holding up this arena, and it falls and kills everybody, but including Dan. At the end of the bracha, Yaakov sees, we were close. We were close to Mashiach. Dan had this descendant, Shimshon, this mighty warrior. We were so close. And then he says, for your salvation, I hope, O Lord, meaning it's not going to come through Dan. But the fact that Yaakov would give this bracha to the tribe of Dan shows they're very unique. They're very special. None of the other Shvatim had anyone like Shimshon that Yaakov Avinu foresaw in his Ruach HaKodesh and said, oh my gosh, we're so close. We're so close. But we failed. What is Dan lacking? Okay? Dan had one son. Okay? This is the shortest pasuk in the entire Torah. It's 10 letters. Yet it has an infinite amount of meaning. I mean, I could honestly do a 30-hour lecture about Dan at this point. And really, just from this one sentence. The sentence is this. Uvenei Dan Chushim. The sons of Dan Chushim. That's strange. I mean, I don't care what language you have. There's singular and there's plural. The sons of Dan, Uvenei Dan, the sons of Dan, and then it lists one son. Clearly, there's something important here, or else, you're reading the Torah wrong. Who talks like that? I mean, I have one son, Baruch Hashem. I don't say to people, hey, come meet my sons. And then I name one son. People are like, where's the other one? I have one son. So why'd you say sons? Say son. Uvenei Dan Chushim. The sons of Dan Chushim. Very, very strange. What else is strange about Chushim? Chushim was deaf. Right? Some of these Shvatim Binyamin had 10 sons. Right? Shimon had a lot of these tribes had lots of sons. Dan has one son, and he's handicapped. Isn't that strange? I mean, literally, go to Binyamin. Look what it says. Bela, Arad, Vered, something. I mean, just boom, 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 one after another. 10 kids. Dan had one son. One son, singular. And it says, Uvnei Dan Chushim, and this son happens to be deaf. Not only that, there's an opinion he was deaf and mute. He couldn't communicate or hear at all. Again, there has to be something to this. Rabbi Shiur says that Dan himself was perhaps the most alone of all the Shvatim. Why? He had only one son, and that son was a deaf mute. Like I said, everyone knows that he was deaf. I mean, most people know that he was deaf. A lot of people also say that there's a lot of midrashim that he was also mute, meaning he could not talk. Unable to communicate effectively with the rest of the world. So you're done. You got all your brothers. You're all traveling, down to Egypt. You're all in Egypt and Goshen. And, Binyamin's busy with his 10 kids and all these. And Dan is sitting there with a child that he probably had a very hard time. I mean, was there Braille? Sorry, not Braille. Was there how did Dan communicate with Chushim? Was there, I didn't mean Braille, I meant sign. Was there sign language at that time? Again, right, what's Rabbi Shiur saying? Dan himself is perhaps the most alone of all the Shvatim. He had one son, that son was a deaf mute, unable to communicate effectively with the rest of the world. Dan represents aloneness, collecting the stragglers and returning them to still be a part of Israel. Dan was outside of the clouds of glory a lot of the time. What did it say? That Dan picked up the treasures. Dan was the one that picked up the lost articles. People say, what, Dan's like a lost and found? Oh, I lost a shoe. Oh, you lost a shoe? Go to Shevet Dan. They have a great lost and found. No, what is Dan? Dan they were like the ones that rolled around in the dirt. They were the ones that got dirty. They're like the ones that did kiruv, right? Like me. I do outreach. I want to get people closer to Hashem. In order to do kiruv, you have to get out of your bubble. You have to be in situations you might not want to be in. I mean, look what Chabad does. I'm not Chabad, but where does Chabad go? They go anywhere in the world that they think that Jews will either be or visit. So you got Chabad stands in Thailand, not a place where Jews should be. Chabad goes, they do the nitty gritty. They're like the embodiment of Shevet Dan. Do you understand what I'm... Every individual has the same power to kill the internal Esav and to eradicate the Yetzer Hara within himself. What does that mean, killing Esav? We're going to get to that. That's a big part of Shevet Dan. It's actually what most people, it's the only thing they know of about Shevet Dan. Okay. And Parshas Vayigash, the pasuk mentions the sons of all the Shvatim who went down to Mitzrayim. Uvnei Dan Chushim. The sons of Dan, Chushim. Who is Chushim? Why is he listed only as one son? Furthermore, in Parshas Bamidbar, Dan, with only one son, manages to have the second largest of all the tribes. It's listing all the numbers. I think Yehuda was 74,000. Dan is number 2. So Dan had one son. He was deaf. His name was Chushim. Yet he's the second largest tribe, second only to Yehuda. Again, you have Dan and Yehuda, again, with this weird synergy. Yehuda is the greatest of all the Shvatim. He's the Melech. Dan is the lowest of all the Shvatim. Yet, as we're going to see in a minute, they're always linked. There is a special link between the highest tribe and the lowest tribe. And that is not by accident. Okay. Again, like I mentioned, Dan was deaf. Everyone knows that he's deaf. That's Rashi's opinion. The Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer says that Chushim could neither hear nor speak. Okay? So, what's interesting about Chushim? How do you even spell Chushim? Okay? Ches, Shin, Yud, Mem. Chushim. Okay? Ches, Shin, Yud, Mem. Okay? 4 letters. Ches, Shin, Yud, Mem. How do you spell Mashiach? Right? Messiah. How do you spell Mashiach? Mem, Shin, Yud, Ches. Oh. Huh. Wow. That's interesting. I don't understand that Mashiach wanted to join the discussion here. Isn't that weird? Dan has one son. His name's Chushim. It happens to be the same exact letters as Mashiach. Fascinating. Okay. Where do we see in the Torah a specific link between Yehuda and Dan? Where does Mashiach come from? We know that Mashiach comes from Shevet Yehuda, right? No one argues that. I mean, Christians base their entire lives trying to prove, but our God is actually the Son of God, but then they have a genealogy chart in the New Testament that both of them are actually different, which is really the stupidest thing I've ever seen, that tries to trace, Jesus back to, Cheese Whiz back to Yehuda. Right? So everyone in the world knows that Mashiach comes from Shevet Yehuda. But then Dan has this son named Chushim, and Chushim is the same exact letters. Both words have a ches, a shin, a yud, and a mem. Chushim Mashiach. Okay? What was so interesting in the desert when they were building the Mishkan? Moshe was told by Hashem to choose Betzalel from the tribe of Yehuda, right? He was in charge of building the Mishkan. What's Betzalel? Meaning like Betzalel was like in his shadow. Like he through divine like providence and Ruach HaKodesh, he knew exactly how to build the Mishkan. Did Betzalel build the Mishkan by himself? No. What else did Hashem say? Betzalel from Shevet Yehuda is going to build the Mishkan. But there's also going to be like his number two, his right-hand man. Who's his right-hand man? Oholiav from the tribe of Dan. Again, very interesting. You have the highest of the tribes and the lowest of the tribes. You have Chushim and Mashiach, same exact letters. In the Torah itself, you don't need a Rashi or anything. Moshe was told by Hashem to choose two people to build the Mishkan. These two people, coincidentally, came from Shevet Yehuda and Shevet Dan. Okay. The Midrash Tanchuma explains, Oholiav was from the tribe of Dan, the lowliest of the tribes from among the children of Israel. Yet the Torah considers him as great as Betzalel, a member of the great tribe of Yehuda. The tribe of Dan was not simply a lowly tribe as a result of having been born to a maidservant. Rashi tells us that they all worshipped idols, and thus the clouds of glory spit them out. The tribe of Yehuda was a lion, the source of a lineage of distinguished kings. Yehuda led the nation in their travels, and Dan took up the rear. And yet the only two tribes that are compared to lions are Yehuda and Dan. And you'll tell me, what are you talking about? You just told me that Yaakov called Dan a snake. A lion cub is Yehuda. That's what Yaakov says, right? A lion cub is Yehuda. What does Moshe say? Moshe also blessed the tribes. There are two blessings of the tribes in the Torah. One by Yaakov, one by Moshe. Yaakov blesses Dan that he is a snake, right? He's like a snake on the road. He's a viper. He like slithers and then bites the heel, just like Shimshon did. But what does Moshe say about Dan? Dan is a lion cub. Starting to see like a weird, awesome, mind-blowing synergy between the highest of the tribes and the lowest of the tribes. There's two tribes likened to lions. Yehuda, who we know. I mean, go to Jerusalem and just look at the Jerusalem, city flag. It's got a big lion on it. Big, blue, beautiful lion. Shevet Yehuda. But there's another lion. There's another lion here. Dan. Why does Dan have a lion? Thought he was a snake. No, Dan starts off as a snake, right? Lowly and into idol worship. But what's he at the end? What is Dan at the end? He's also a lion. So, if Chushim, the only son of Dan, has the same letters of Mashiach, and now we're seeing that there's only two Shvatim, literally the one that went first and the one that went last are both called lions. Does Dan have some sort of unique role in Mashiach? You bet your bottom dollar. He does. The Ibn Ezra says that it was necessary to also have a lion taking up the rear, right? Dan was last. Dan traveled last. Just as it was needed to have a lion leading the nation, they needed to be protected from both ends. So Dan was a lion while at the same time being a weakling struggling to keep up. What is going on with Dan, right? Who's Dan? Dan is every single one of us watching this lecture, right? Dan has the ability to be the lion, also has the ability to be the snake. We have the ability to be the highest of all the animals, right? The lion, the mighty lion, the king of the jungle. Also the most cursed of all the animals, the snake. Dan is inside all of us. We all have a little bit of, you might have a heart and a pancreas. We all have Dan. What's Dan? Dan is the lifelong battle of good and evil, of the Yetzer Hara, of always trying to overcome our taivas and our lust and our jealousy and all of our negative character traits. Sometimes we succeed. Sometimes we're like the Yehuda. Other times we fail. We're like Dan. We're like the snake. But the Jewish people cannot exist without either one of them, right? There's 12 tribes. Dan is one of the 12 tribes. He's also compared and always linked with the greatest of the tribes, right? Okay, before we get to the most famous of all of the things we know about Dan, specifically Chushim, what are some other times that Dan had a very important role? How about when we killed Bilam? Okay? Most people know that Bilam was killed and Pinchas, was a part of it. Who else was a part of it? The Midrash says, at the sight of Bilam flying in the air through witchcraft, Pinchas shouted to his army, "Is there anyone among us who's able to fly after this villain?" There was. Someone from the tribe of Dan. His name was Tzaliah, right? Tzali. He was a past master in the art of sorcery. Again, Shevet Dan had this just taiva, this insatiable urge for idolatry. Hence, Abraham, when he got to the tribe of Dan, yes, they didn't exist yet, but the Torah is telling you, Abraham foresaw nothing but problems and idol worship. And that golden calf that Yerovam set up in Dan. And as soon as he got to Dan, what does it say? He pursued them until Dan. And then what does Rashi say? He weakened. Why? We can't jive with idolatry. Tzaliah flies in the air. He ends up getting Bilam down to the ground. By means of a magical invocation, he dispelled the clouds that covered Bilam, and then Tzaliah forced Bilam to descend to the earth and appear before Pinchas. He began to implore Pinchas to spare his life, promising never again to try to curse the Jewish people. He then ordered Tzaliah to kill Bilam, admonishing him, however, to make sure not to kill him through the holy name of God, as it does not befit such a sinner. Tzaliah now tried in vain to kill Bilam, for through his magic he was proof. Tzaliah now tried in vain to kill Bilam, for through his magical wiles he was like bulletproof against all the weapons, until Pinchas at last gave Tzaliah a sword on both sides, which is engraved a serpent, right? Again, the snake. Dan is the snake. With the words, "Kill him with that to which he belongs, through this he will die." And with this sword, Tzaliah from the tribe of Dan killed Bilam. Okay? Where else is Dan in Jewish history? In this week's Parsha, Vayechi, well, it's not Vayechi this week, we read how Yaakov gives a final blessing to his children before his passing. And the concluding blessing, Yaakov says he's eagerly awaiting Hashem's salvation. Lishuascha kivisi, Hashem. What's this referring to? We thought that the salvation would come through Yehuda, right? Like I mentioned. Not through Dan, the lowliest of all the tribes. Yet he says, I wait for your salvation. Again, we said that this relates to Shimshon. On Dan's blessing, Rashi comments that Yaakov foresaw the rise of Shimshon from the tribe of Dan. And he was praying that Shimshon would be successful. Shimshon could have been Mashiach. Shimshon was the potential Mashiach of his generation. This is first brought down in the Midrash, Bereshis Rabbah. Upon closer examination, there's actually a profound connection between the tribes of Yehuda and Dan. Our sages taught that Yehuda was the most illustrious of the tribes, while Dan was the lowliest. In the wilderness, the tribe of Yehuda led the way, while Dan was in the back. Dan was tasked with being the lost and found, picking up the things left behind by the other tribes. Picked up their sparks. He picked up when the tribes were weakening. Oh, are we there yet, Dad? Are we there yet, Moshe? Are we there yet? Dan was there to pick them up. On a mystical level, Dan's role is symbolic of our mission in finding and restoring lost sparks of creation to rectify the world. Although people saw Yehuda as the greatest and Dan as the lowliest, God saw them both as equals and declared that Yehuda and Dan will build his house. Okay? What are we talking about? His house. We just said it. Betzalel, Aholiab, they're both, one from Yehuda, one from Dan. The same exact thing happens hundreds of years later, building the first Beis Hamikdash. Who was it built by? King Shlomo from the tribe of Yehuda, using resources and labor from King Hiram, whose mother was from the tribe of Dan. And then finally, in the same vein, Mashiach will come from the tribe of Yehuda paternally, but from the tribe of Dan maternally. King David himself was from both. How? His mother, Nitzeves Bas Adel, was from the tribe of Dan. The root of Yehuda is lahodos, to thank and be grateful, which is partly an aspect of chesed, the right pole of kindness. The root of Dan is din, judgment, representing gevura, which is the left side, severity. It is fitting. We need both. Yehuda, again, remember we always talked about, Abraham is chesed, Yitzchak is gevura, and then there's the middle, tiferes, right? Kabbalistically. I don't do any Kabbalah here other than this. Yehuda is, thank you. What's Yehuda's name? She praised Hashem. Thank you for giving me, Leah praised Hashem. Thank you for giving me more than my share. Again, there were 12. They knew that they were going to have 12 shvatim. They knew that Yaakov was going to have 12 shvatim. There was 4 wives. You'd think, okay, 3 for each. All of a sudden, Yehuda comes. Yehuda is now number 4 to Leah, meaning I'm going to have more than everybody else. I have more than my share. Awesome. She names him Yehuda. Chesed. What's Dan? Din. Din. Right? You go to a base din, right? Judgment. Judgment. The left side, meaning severity. You have Yehuda, the right side. Dan on the left side. You can't exist as a Jew without both. We're both, right? Some more than others, but we need both. Hashem is telling us over and over again. There's so many great Jews out there. There's also a Dan. But don't despair. Don't give up. You might start as a snake. You might, start off great and then sink to the level of the snake. But at the end, you can always be a lion. Yaakov says he's a snake. Moshe says he's going to be a lion, right? Chushim, Mashiach, same letters. Don't despair. No matter how low you sink. One of my friends who just started keeping Shabbos because of my lectures, he lives in Virginia. I messaged him, how you doing? How's everything going with Shabbos? And he said, I don't know what came over me. I fell. I watched your lecture. This was like maybe 3 weeks ago that this happened. He said, I'm watching one of your lectures and it's like building me back up. That is Shevet Dan. We all have the Dan inside of us. We're never done. Okay. Okay. Another midrash ties this reason to why both Yehuda and Dan are described in the Torah as a gur aryeh, a lion cub. The lion being the symbol of David and of Yerushalayim. And Yaakov's final blessing in the parsha, it is Judah who's called the gur aryeh, but in Moshe's final blessing, it's Dan who's called the gur aryeh, right? The midrash concludes that Mashiach will come from these two tribes, just like David came from these two tribes. David's father was from Yehuda, right? Yishai. We know unequivocally was from Sheva Yehuda, but his mother, Nitzeves Bas Adel, was from the tribe of Dan. There's an allusion to it in last week's in the parsha where it says that we read the names of the 70 members of Yaakov's family, right? The only progeny of Dan is Chushim, an exact anagram of Mashiach, which we said. Now, let's get to Chushim. Okay? Who's Chushim? Chushim is the son of Dan, right? But it says Uvnei Dan, Chushim. He's just one person. So let's tackle this for a second. Again, you don't introduce, if you have one child or one student, you don't say, hey, look at all my students. I see one person. You don't talk like that. Again, Uvnei Dan, the sons of Dan, Chushim. Chushim was the son of Dan, yet he was one person. But the Torah tells us that the sons of Dan were Chushim. Why is he called more than one person? The Shalah quotes the Arizal, pointing out that the letters Chushim, Ches, Shin, Yud, Mem, are the very letters of Mashiach. The Shalah elsewhere talks about the transformation of Dan, again, from a snake, like Yaakov calls him, to a lion, and the times just before Mashiach, right? As Moshe says. In fact, Rav Tzadok of Lublin writes, again, while the father of Mashiach will be from Yehuda, the mother will be from Dan. Perhaps these are the two sons referred to in the verse. The sons of Dan were Chushim and Mashiach. That's one opinion. What does the Ibn Ezra say? It's possible that there were two, and one of them died. That's one opinion. And although the verse does not mention him, this is the language style of the Torah to use the words children anyway. Or perhaps Dan had twins. One did not make it. And in the memory of that original family member, the verse uses the word children. Okay? There's a midrash that says, it's a midrash on, the Maharsha says, commenting on Sota and the Gemara, Chushim ben Dan. This is what it's written. The righteous will rejoice when they see. It seems that all of this is drawn out from the psalm where it says, the wicked have been estranged from birth. That's Esav. Tried to break out of the womb in order to follow idolatry. Who follows idolatry? Dan, right? Dan. The liars go astray from the womb. When he said this, okay. We need to get to this before we do this part, okay? What do Chushim do? What's Chushim most famous for? Chushim is most famous for killing Esav, right? People always wonder, how did Esav die? Where's Esav? When I used to live in Hebron, there's the Maras Machpelah, right? There's the Cave of the Patriarchs. And we all know who's buried there. There's Adam and Chava, there's Avram and Sarah, there's Yitzhak and Rivka, and then there's Yaakov and there's Leah. But it also says that Esav's head is there, okay? Well, typically when someone says, I found a head, where's the rest of the body? Who killed Esav? Okay? All right. This is what happens. Yitzhak loved Esav because Esav fed him from his game, while Rivka loved Yaakov, right? That's in Bereshis. What does the Targum Yonasan say? And the cave of the Machpelah in Hebron, the burial place of the patriarchs, Esav's head lies in the bosom of Yitzchak. That's strange. How does his head get into the cave? And it's laying in the bosom of Yitzchak. Well, the Midrash relates that when Yaakov's funeral procession reached the cave of the Machpelah, the burial place of Abraham, Sarah, Yitzhak, Rivka, they found Esav and his henchmen barring their path. Esav claimed that the sole remaining plot was his by inheritance, after Yaakov had already taken his share when he buried Leah. Again, there's 4 couples at the cave of the patriarchs, right? There's Abraham there's Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve. There's Abraham and Sarah. There's Yitzhak and Rivka. And then Leah passed away first. So there's one remaining spot. The children go, the 12 Shvatim go to bury Yaakov in the cave. All of a sudden, Esav comes. And he says, no, that's my spot. Yaakov used his spot for Leah. The remaining one is mine. Yaakov's children said, what are you talking about, Uncle Esav? You Russia Marusha. You sold the birthright to my father. This is his. Esav denied it. They say the transaction was put in writing, but the deed is back in Egypt. Who should go? Who did they send? Naphtali. What's Naphtali? They said he was as fast as a deer, right? Naphtali was fleet-footed. Why do they call him a cheetah? A cheetah is the fastest animal on earth, but can only run straight line for like a burst and then stops. What's a deer? You ever seen a deer run? A deer can hop sideways, very hard to catch. So they sent they sent Naphtali to get the deed from Egypt to prove that Esav had sold his birthright and the plot to Yaakov. All of a sudden, Hushim is deaf. He asked what the commotion was all about. He was incensed to learn that Esav had halted the funeral of his revered grandfather. What did he do? Right? He took a sword and he chopped off Esav's head, which then rolled into the Maras Machpelah and came to rest in Yitzchak's lap, where it remains to this day. Thus it came to pass, Esav's head lies in the bosom of Yaakov. Why of all, there's a lot of kids, grandkids. Why only Hushim? What was so unique about Hushim? He's deaf. He's the only one in the entire Torah that's deaf. He saw that his grandfather was lying in disgrace. Naphtali had to go back to Egypt, come back. He's supposed to bury a Jew right away. The only reason why we prolong a burial is for the honor of the deceased. There's a reason why some people die and then within like an hour, you're supposed to be buried as soon as possible. The most righteous person maybe that ever lived. Yaakov he's lying there in disgrace. And his grandson Hushim, who's deaf, can't hear the commotion. There's a fight back and forth between Esav, and all of his uncles and his father. And so what does he do? He takes a sword and he just cuts off Esav's head. I think that's interesting. We know that Esav is the personification of evil. We know that, like the archangel of Esav is the Yetzer Hara, is the Satan. Why didn't any other person do this? Hushim's the only one that just said, no, that this is not right, and just takes action, right? And he lops off his head. But there's another midrash, very, very interesting midrash that says what? Hang on. The descendants of Esav have their own version of what happened. And that says that Hushim gave Esav like a mortal blow, but it was Yehuda that came and knocked off his head with the sword. Right? Not a son of Yehuda himself. So again, we know that Esav's head came off. One midrash says it was just Hushim. Another midrash says that it was Hushim and Yehuda together. Who's Hushim? The son of Dan and Yehuda. Again, to defeat evil, to defeat our arch enemy, to defeat the Yetzer Hara, to progress as Jews. Do you see that yet again there is this just inexplicable link between Dan and Yehuda, the lowest and the highest? Again, very, very interesting. Why only through Chushim? Let's take 5 examples of why Chushim had this schus. This deaf son of Dan either killed Esav himself, according to one opinion, or was hand in hand with his uncle Yehuda, the lowest tribe and the greatest tribe. Again, okay. We learned about the bracha of Dan, right? When Rachel is naming him. The bracha given by Yaakov. The bracha is about a potential Mashiach. Rashi emphasizes the aspect of Shimshon, Samson. But we see that Yaakov foresaw the role of the descendants of God in the process, of Dan in the process of Mashiach. There is always going to be somebody from Dan that is helping to bring the Mashiach. It's even mentioned that in the Zohar and Balak that one of the warriors, along with Mashiach ben Yosef, will be from the tribe of Dan. Meaning, we know that there's 2 Mashiachs. There's Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben Yehuda. Dan has a critical role. The Zohar specifically says what the critical role is. Dan is the first son of Bilhah. She's the maidservant. And the writings of the Arizal, she's referred to as a chorim, a subsidiary aspect of Rachel. That's why Yaakov moves his bed into Rachel's tent after she dies. So her children are part of the family of Rachel. This is clear in the Pesukim, since Rachel says that Bilhah's children will be mine. It's brought down that the children of Esav will fall into the hands of the descendants of Rachel. Dan is included in this ability. This is another aspect which connects Dan to the bringing of Mashiach. The name Chushim is written without the letter Vav, and it's the same letters of Mashiach. Furthermore, the name is from the word Achishena, which is the word for the end of the exile that Hashem brings the redemption. Achishena. This is part of the aspect that the redemption comes specifically from the lowest levels of the Jewish people. Who represents the lowest levels of the Jewish people? The tribe of Dan. The tribe of Dan has an important part in the Battle of Esav. The 12 months correspond to the 12 tribes. And Teves, the month of Teves, is the month associated with Dan. Based on the Zohar, the month of Teves is the harshest of the 3 months associated with Esav. Therefore, it's fitting that the power of the Kedusha of the month of Teves is the month that corresponds to Dan. It's like the hardest of the months. It's the winter. It's when nights get longer, nights get shorter. It's the winter. It's Teves. Teves is the month of Dan. It's also the part of the year that was given to Esav. Who kills Esav? One of the sons of Dan. In addition, Esav is considered coming from the north, and that is where Dan's encampment was in the desert. In addition, when Amalek first attacks the Jewish people after leaving Egypt, the pasuk says they attacked those who were outside the clouds. These are the people of Shevet Dan. Dan is the Ma'asef, meaning the gatherer of the tribes as they travel through the desert. In many sources, this is described as the ability to be outside the clouds of glory and to bring back in all the sparks of holiness which were wandering throughout the world. Even in Esav, there is a spark of Kedusha, which Yitzchak saw as good. The head of Esav, therefore, needed to be buried along with his father. Dan is the one who made the separation. Find the holiness, detaching it from the impurity. Again, What's unique about Esav is Esav has double the gematria as Yaakov, when Yaakov's name is spelled a certain way. He had double the potential. Esav could have been great. Esav could have been a legend. Esav was supposed to understand what the next generation understood. Zvulun and Yisachar. What does it say about Esav? He was a doer. He was a hunter. He was in the fields. He was a go-getter. What was Yaakov? He was an Ishtam. He was in the tents. What was the role of Esav? Why did Yitzhak love Esav so much? He knew he was evil. He knew this. You think Yitzhak was stupid? The whole world talked about Esav, yet Yitzhak didn't know. But what did Yitzhak love about Esav? The potential. You know, I'm in this risk reduction class the last few days. I see some of these people, they have really powerful things to say. Some of these people could probably be great. They're mired in their donness at this point. Part of Esav was Kedusha. Part of Esav was holy. What part? His head. Who was the one that detached the head? One opinion, it's just Shevet Dan. In another opinion, it's Dan and Yehuda working in tandem. Dan is the one that can overcome Esav. Why? He is from the children of Rachel. He might be Bilhah's son, but Bilhah was the maidservant of Rachel. This all goes together. What does it say at the end of times? The house of Esav will be like in flames, and Yaakov will be the torch, and Yosef will be like the light. Meaning, coming from the sons of Rachel is the means to destroy Esav. Who was the one that literally killed him himself? Dan. Dan was a part of it. Dan, like it says here, he's the one that can make the separation. Dan, so many things in his life. He's building the temple. He's building the Mishkan. He's collecting Kedusha throughout the world. He's great. He's wondrous. And then part of his life, he's just mired in idolatry. He's the leader of idolatry. Abraham gets to his territory and he just freezes because of the evil that's going to come through Shevet Dan. See how beautiful this is? Dan's not just a regular, we know a little bit about each tribe. Dan, we happen to know more. The Torah is very, and the Talmud and the sages, they're very honest about Dan, the lowliest of the tribes, the lowest of all the tribes, but with so much potential. And at the end, he will actualize that potential. He starts off as a snake, right? Yaakov likens him to a snake. And then Moshe likens him to a lion, right? Okay. Let's end with something very beautiful. Okay, so to wrap up, we clearly see something very special about Dan, right? He has one son. The one son literally has the same exact letters as Mashiach. We know that Dan is a very problematic tribe. They were steeped in idol worship. They were literally the home of one of the two golden calves set up by Yerovam. Such wickedness occurred in their territory that even when Avraham Avinu was at his zenith, he weakened, Rashi says, when he got to the territory of Dan. Everything holy in Judaism, there was always something linking Yehuda and Dan, the highest of the tribes and the lowest of the tribes. Building the Mishkan, building the temple. David HaMelech's mother and father, one from Dan, one from Yehuda. And Mashiach himself will come from both. Chushim. Mashiach, same exact letters. There is something so powerful and intrinsic about Dan that if we internalize, what does Yaakov say? Lishuascha kivisi. I yearn for you. I yearn for your salvation. I yearn for Mashiach. What happens when we internalize the Dan and we work on the Dan inside of each of us? Every single person has flaws. Remember Malka Rus? She wrote down 7 things that she's trying to work on. Remember when I told you in a previous lecture to write out your, like, in your circumstances now, what you think a perfect day would be according to Hashem. I mean, if you're working 8 hours a day, don't put, quitting my job. No. Write down your perfect day that you think Hashem, like, oh my God, this person could not do more this day. Got the most out of their day. And then write down your average day now and see what the gaps are. See where you're being a Yehuda and where you're being a Dan. And then close the gaps. Like who's going to do at the end? Dan. Dan closes the gaps, right? Starts off as a snake. He ends up as a lion, right? There's only 2 people called lions, Dan and Yehuda, right? But Dan is also called a snake. He's a snake and he's a lion. He's the lowest of the animals, the most cursed of the animals, and he's the king of the jungle. Aren't we all? We literally, every single one of us is part of Shevet Dan. This beautiful Shevet, this like lost, forgotten, alone, lowliest. They're in the northernmost territory. Such turmoil within the tribe. You know, very well-known characters like Shimshon with big downfalls. But at the end, they're gonna thrive. We can't have Mashiach without them. There's no Mashiach without Dan. What's Dan? Dan is tshuva. Dan is realizing, you know what? Okay, I wasted 50 years of my life. Not keeping Shabbos, not eating kosher. I mean, I'm really not that great of a Jew when I actually think about it. But in my heart, I really love being Jewish and I really love Hashem. What's Dan? Dan is, okay, you have the spark inside of you. You have the potential to be great. Do it. Do it. Dan is action. It's internalizing, okay, I wasted it. I was doing amazing last month and then I fell like my friend from Virginia. I used to keep Shabbos growing up and now I don't. That's done. Can you change? Of course. Until the second that you're dead, you can be done. The part of Dan that rises at the end to also be the Gor Aryeh, the lion cub, just like the greatest, most regal and royal and majestic of all the tribes. What's Dan? Dan is hope. Dan is potential. Dan is yearning. It's overcoming. It's battling. It's conquering. Dan has one son, Hushim. He's deaf. He might have even been deaf and mute. Imagine his life. All these just legends all around him. And Dan has one son, one child. Everyone's going home. Benjamin's going home. He's got 10 kids, sitting at the table with his wife and the 10 kids. Dan's sitting there with a kid he can't even really communicate with. It's hard. It's a struggle. Things weren't easy. Lots of highs and lows. Who kills Esav? Who rises up? Who doesn't let his handicap and his negative traits and his bad characteristics hold him back? Chushim. Oh, I'm deaf? Big deal. I'll fly. I'll make it. What does Sali do when he's killing Bilam? He flies into the air. Okay, I have a handicap. I get angry easily. I'm jealous a lot. Fly. Do what Hushim did. Just take that knife in an instant. What else is Hushim? Did Hushim sit there and, the brothers are deliberating. No, we need to get the send Naphtali. No, it's going to take too long. All these cheshbons, right? All these things going through their head. No, we need to, what does Hushim say? Are you serious? Yaakov's laying here, boom! Kills the problem. No other tribe did that, right? Didn't come from Asher, didn't come from Binyamin, didn't come from Yosef. It came from Dan in an instant, right? In an instant, in 1 second. What's going on? Esav's holding it up. Oh, I've identified the problem. Esav's holding it up. Knocks his head off, right? Oh, I'm having a real problem with my anger. Take the sword. Do what Hushim did. Lop it off. Work on it. Put forth some effort. Put forth some commitment and some determination. And then what? You'll go from the low, the snake. Boom. Then you'll find another problem. You'll find another character trait to work on. What do so many rabbis say? Our only purpose in coming to this world is to overcome our negative character traits. Well, who's the embodiment of that? Who's the embodiment of, okay, I was dealt this hand and it's challenging. I have such a yearning for money, for honor, for women, for dressing immodest. Okay, so what? Hushim was deaf. Did that hold him back? No. Did Hushim say, oh, I don't have any siblings, I'm such a loser? No! He had the second most amount of members of his tribe. Second only to Yehuda. Again. All this connection with Dan and Yehuda. The lowest and the highest. Dan is the archetype, the embodiment of every single one of us. Every person watching this right now can sink to, and probably has sunk before, to the lowest depths, just like the snake, but also with just a little bit of determination, a desire, a yearning to grow, to better yourself, you can reach the highest, just like Dan will do at the end. We cannot have it any other way. Hashem gave us all free will. We all make mistakes. We all make terrible choices. We all sometimes feel like we're kicked out of the clouds of glory like Shevet Dan was. But what did Dan do when he was there? Okay, I fell. Big deal. I'll pick myself right back up. Okay, I'm deaf. I'll knock off Esav's head. Okay, I'm the lowest of the tribes. Yet every single thing of Kedusha, the Mishkan, the temples, always built with someone from Dan. And Mashiach himself will not come until Dan becomes the lion. How does Dan become the lion? Someone like Lisa, who sponsored this lecture, who wasn't keeping Shabbos, yet was going to shul every Friday night, has a yearning. Last 4 months, what has she been doing? Keeping Shabbos accordingly. That is done. Went from breaking Shabbos to keeping Shabbos. Some people out there dressing immodestly. Watch these lectures. Started dressing more modest. That's done. There's a reason why this is, if like a dating site would say, what are your hobbies? It would be, I don't play anymore, but it would be golf and shave it done. I am literally just Shevet done. I mean, I have such a kesher. I have such a my favorite day of the year was Yom Kippur, so I could do cocaine and watch terrible things on the internet, and I knew no one would bother me the whole day. That was the highlight of my year, was Yom Kippur, to do cocaine and do terrible things, right? Watch terrible things on the internet. Okay, that was terrible. What do you do? Hashem, I messed up. I'll turn it around. 17 years later. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Do I want to be perfect? Yes. Yes. I have a ongoing battle. That there's a dan and a chushim inside of all of us. You got to tap into the good parts. You know, you have inside of you, every single Jew. Look at someone like Acher, right? Elisha ben Avuya. At the times of Rabbi Akiva, he was one of the biggest rabbis, the holiest people in the entire world. He then fell to the lowest of depths, and he was with a prostitute on Shabbos. Right? But just as quickly as we can fall as Jews, we can tap right back into our holiness and our kedusha and our dan inside of every single one of us and go back to the top, right? Yaakov starts off calling him a snake. Moshe calls him a lion cub, right? Tap into your potential. Don't sit there thinking, I'm this. There's nothing I can do about it. There's no way that I can change. Because Dan is the embodiment of change. Lowest, he ends up going just like the highest, just like Sheba Yehuda. It's called the lion cub. Whew, Baruch Hashem. I really love doing these lectures. I got such an amazing comment from Malka Rus. You know, I just did a lecture for her on Purim, which you just need to watch. It's just really, really awesome. And you'll think, well, what are you doing Purim for in July? Well, you know, watch the lecture. But this is what she wrote. You blew 3 toupees off my head. I told her I wanted to try to blow 2 toupees off. Not that Malka Rus wears a toupee. I love learning new information, and you never disappoint me. I hope everyone learns the holiness of Purim. I hope we merit Hashem's light. I mean, if only one person, if nobody watched the lectures, I mean, Hashem's watching the lecture. Hashem's seeing my effort. Hashem's seeing, you know, that I want to help. But to get messages like this from just so many people around the world watching, it's, come on, we're bringing the Geula. How does the Geula come? It can't come without the help of Shevet Dan. Who's Shevet Dan? The lowliest. It can't come until people like Malka Rus convert to Judaism. People like me, just mired in drug use and whatever, just decide, you know what, there has to be more to life than this. Great people like Lisa that just, you know, keeping Shabbos the wrong way, decides to do it. We are, you know, obviously I'm from Shevet Levi, but we are all Shevet Dan. We all have the ability to better ourselves and perfect ourselves and use all the negative traits to shine just as brightly as, you know, as Shevet Yehuda, as the royalty and the majesty. The lowliest of the tribe is always connected and likened the same in Hashem's eyes. I want to thank Lisa, my dear sponsor. If anybody would like to sponsor a lecture, just message me, pick a topic, or I'll just do something like I did today, just pick a topic and roll with it. If nothing else people get from these lectures, it's please use your tzedakah money wisely. You have to give tzedakah. It is a minimum of 10%, a maximum of 20%, but then you get rewarded for it. don't waste it on causes that bring you no reward. This lecture is now an hour and 15 minutes. That's almost 80,000 mitzvahs. We're at 75,000 mitzvahs just for watching this lecture. When you sponsor the lecture, you then get the Torah learning of every other person. If 100 people watch the lecture, you get 75,000 times 100 mitzvahs. Just saying the blessing over this was one mitzvah. Yes, it's that easy. That's how Hashem set up the system. Read what Rav Moshe Feinstein says. Read what the Chafetz Chaim says. Read what any rabbi says. Hashem made a cheat code in this world, and that is Torah learning. You might work 8 hours a day. You sponsor a lecture. You'll be sitting at work as I'm giving a lecture, earning millions of mitzvahs. A lot of people, Baruch Hashem, watch these. And if people would help and just share the lecture, a lot more will watch. And you'll get the same amount of merit that I do by literally just clicking share. The goal is to transform our entire nation into a done process of going from lives that we used to live, that were not fulfilling, that were not holy, and continuing to work on ourselves and improve and grow and have a burning desire to get closer to Hashem so that we can bring Mashiach, same letters as Chushim, the only son of Dan. Wishing everybody a wonderful day.